All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started, just a couple of the normal reminders. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. You can type those in by clicking the Q&A or the chat section in the lower portion of your control panel. Feel free to chat between yourselves as well throughout. We will be posting a recording of the webinar on our blog. The link for that will be shown at the end. And if you would like a PDF copy of the presentation, there will be a link to download that on the same post as the recording. If your question does not get answered today, or if you think of any others, please email our support inbox, which will be shown at the end as well. All right, we're going to turn it over to Coach Jamie today. Go ahead, Coach Jamie.
Thank you, Shelby. And I apologize, everyone. It's tornado siren test day. I just realized that. So if you can hear that, I'm up in the Midwest and it's tornado season. So thank you for attending the webinar today. We are going to be talking about maximizing your workout. So I know what you're thinking, a health coach telling me I should work out. Exercise is a topic that does frequently come up on coaching calls, and between sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day, as well as other responsibilities on the list, a lot of us don't feel we have the time. But did you know that our team of health coaches here at Health Check 360 are all facing those same hurdles as you? We find ourselves sitting at desk, taking kids to extracurriculars, etc., but we recognize the importance of exercise. So the question is, how do we make this work? Now, the goal of today's webinar is to discuss how to make physical activity a more consistent part of your lifestyle. We will discuss some of the common myths we see and hear around exercise, as well as provide practical suggestions to incorporate more movement into your life. Bonus is that this webinar also serves as a workout. Please keep an eye on the slides for recommended exercises that you can do while you listen along. I also want to be sure and say this: everybody is different. Please consult with your physician, physical therapist, or an exercise specialist to discuss activities if you do have certain barriers. We want to encourage everyone to move more to feel their best, and this webinar is geared towards doing just that. With that said, we have our first exercise. If you look at the slide, you'll see a small picture showing the exercise. We're going to start with a lateral raise. This move can be done standing or sitting with an engaged core. So think if someone was going to punch you in the stomach, you'd brace for impact. That's how you know your core is engaged. You'll raise your arms out to the sides. Count to 1, 2, 3, 4 on the way up, and then pause and count 1, 2, 3, 4 as you lower your arms back down. Repeat this for about 10 reps, and know that you can do this with 0 additional weight, right? That's why we go slower, time under tension. But if you have some soup cans or some water bottles handy, feel free to add those for some additional resistance. So let's talk about time, something we all have the same amount of in a day, and yet how we utilize it can look drastically different. So how can you make the most out of a workout when time is, as they say, not on your side? First would be circuit training. Circuit training is the combining of several moves into a workout and moving consecutively through those moves with limited rest time in between. The quick transitions keep your heart rate elevated, resulting in maximized effort. The nice thing about circuit training is that you can cater it to your space, your time, and your fitness level. Let's get some examples of what that could look like. One example of circuit training is what we'll call the alphabet method. And one way of using this would be to assign an exercise or movement to each letter of your name, as well as the number of repetitions to each movement. So on the screen, you'll see my name is spelled out. So it could look like J, jumping jacks, and I'll say 20 of those, A, air squats, 10, M, mountain climbers, 20 of those, and then I, push-ups for 10. Since my name is only 4 letters, I might just choose to cycle through this 5 or 6 times versus somebody who has a longer name. The other version of this would be setting up a timer. So let's say 15 minutes and seeing how many times you can get through your name. Another variation of the alphabet method would be to go through the entire alphabet, A through Z, and assign a movement or exercise to each letter. From there, you could choose to spell out the day of the week. So each day is a little different, but just make sure that you like the moves that you assign to the letters D, A, and Y. Spell whatever you wish, but just know that the amount of rest time in between exercises and the number of times you spell out the word will ultimately impact what you get out of the workout. You can even assign a theme to it, right? Summertime, maybe you spell cookout words, right? It's 4th of July this weekend. Maybe put a spin on that and come up with themes like fireworks or sparklers. Have fun with it. With circuit training, your best bang for your buck will come from the intensity of your work time and the limited amount of rest between exercises, as I mentioned before. HIIT, or high intensity interval training, is focusing on short bursts of work followed by minimal rest. Not only is it an efficient way to exercise, but you can also cater it to the amount of time you have to work out. A couple of examples of timing out HIIT workouts are Tabata and AMRAP. So Tabata is 20 seconds of work followed by 10 seconds of rest. Now, I know 20 seconds of rest does not sound like much, right? Well, try doing squats for 20 seconds with only 10 seconds of rest for 8 rounds. That is 160 seconds of squats. You will feel it. AMRAP, or as many rounds as possible, is where you set a time limit. So let's say 15 minutes is on the clock and you see how many times you can cycle through moves. So going back to my example with my name, how many times in 15 minutes can I get through 20 jumping jacks, 10 air squats, 20 mountain climbers, and 10 push-ups? You rest as you need, but the goal is to get through those moves as many times as possible. Now, I thought it would be fun to have a health check version of this type of workout, so I went ahead and created one that you can save and do later. Spelling out health check, H is high knees for 30 seconds, E is an elbow plank for 30 seconds, A is alternating step back lunge doing 10 repetitions per leg, so 20 total. L is lateral raises for 12 reps, that same move we did on the first slide. T is triceps dips for 12 repetitions. H is those high knees again for 30 seconds. C is crunches for 20 reps. H again, high knees for 30 seconds. E is another elbow plank for 30 seconds. C is crunches again for 20 reps. And you've rounded out with K for knee tucks for 15 reps. You can cycle through this 1 to 3 times with 30 to 60 seconds of rest between each letter or move and 1 to 2 minutes between rounds. If you're unsure of how to perform a move, feel free to look it up. Quick Google search, you'll be able to see some visuals, or YouTube. They have a great resource available as far as looking up different moves and how to do them. But also, you can avoid or swap out a move that doesn't feel good to you. We will have this as a printable PDF after the webinar with some additional cues included. So our next move, for those of you following along with the slides, are side bends. You can do this seated or standing. You'll reach to your right while your left arm goes overhead. You should feel a stretch in your left side, and your obliques, or those side muscles on your right, will engage. Repeat going in the other direction and do a total of 20 or 10 on each side. This is one that if you do it slow, you're going to feel a little bit more of a stretch and a little bit more of a crunch, or you can increase your speed and almost have it look more like a side tap or half of a jumping jack. So how many of you are familiar when people talk about their workout split? Have you ever heard people talk about, oh, my workout split, today's split? This term refers to how people are breaking down their week of workouts to target all those different muscle groups of the body. For example, someone might have a full body day, a day they focus on lower body, a day for upper body, a day for core, and then a cardio day. Well, this can be great to ensure you target all those different muscle groups. Another way to maximize your workout is focusing on compound movements. A lot of times people tend to skip the area or areas of the body they don't love working out as much. If we focus on compound movements, we get more, again, bang for our buck. And a lot of these exercises are also functional movements. So let's take a squat, for example, and feel free to join in. Standing with your feet shoulder width apart, you're going to bend at the knees like you're sitting back in a chair. What muscles do you feel firing? Is it your quads, those big muscles on the front of your legs? What about your glutes, those muscles that we sit on all day? Or your hamstrings, the muscles on the backs of your legs? Well, the answer is all of the above. By doing one single movement, you have targeted your three large muscle groups in your lower body. Overhead press is another example. Anytime we bring our arms above our heads, we rely on our core to become engaged to protect our lower back. An overhead press is not only engaging your core, but it's also your shoulders, your upper back muscles, and your triceps, those muscles on the back of your arm. Utilizing compound movements is a great way to target a variety of muscle groups. You can incorporate these moves into a circuit workout to really maximize your time if you want a great full body workout in a short amount of time. So our next move on the slides is overhead press. I know I just mentioned that one. So with that engaged core, again, think if somebody was going to come and punch you in the stomach, you'd brace for impact. And then you'll push both of your arms upward overhead. Kind of like the lateral raise, this should be done in a controlled motion, and then you will slowly lower back down to about your shoulders. Again, this is another move that can be done seated or standing and with or without added resistance. So with no added resistance, using just your body weight, time under tension, which is the pace in which you're moving, is going to target those shoulders a little bit more. And you can aim for about 8 to 10 total. Now, I know we've talked about how to maximize your workout, but when we talk about maximizing our workout, we can also talk about monitoring our intensity and being sure that we get the most out of the workouts that we are doing. So, rating of perceived exertion, or RPE, is a method of assigning a number to your exertion level. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, you'd rank your exertion level, starting with 0 being nothing at all, and 10 being maximum exertion level. To increase your cardiorespiratory fitness, your RPE ideally should be between 3, which is moderate, and a 5, which is strong. We've got a visual here. I'm sure a lot of us have seen the smiley face chart in a doctor's office, usually geared more towards pain. This can be a great tool to figure out kind of where you're at when you're working out, right? Want to be between that green and the yellow. As your fitness level increases, your threshold for RPE should increase as well. Another method to test your intensity level is called the talk test. So simply put, are you able to converse while exerting yourself? Speaking in sentences is a good indicator that your intensity level is appropriate. Now, stopping and gasping for air prior to responding is an indicator that your intensity level might be too high for your current fitness level. Again, while we want to maximize our workouts, we don't want to push ourselves too hard. As we mentioned at the top of the webinar, it is important to consult with your physician prior to beginning an exercise regimen to establish a baseline and ensure you are in good health. So after laying out a couple different key points on maximizing your workouts, I do want to take a few minutes to revisit some of those myths that I still think provide barriers to a lot of us when it comes to incorporating exercise into our routine. Before I get into that, our next move is one that can be done to boost that heart rate. I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with jumping jacks, and you are more than welcome to take this to that level. A seated jack is a modification in which each leg alternately touches out to the side while your arms come up overhead, or you can do both legs and both arms at the same time. You can do this slowly with control or increase your pace for more intensity. Aim for about 20 total, or you can set a timer and see how many jumping jacks or seated jacks you can get in 30 seconds or a minute, whatever you pick for that time. So I think the first myth that I'd really like to bust regarding working out is the time that it should take. Now, in the chat, please throw out how long you think you need to get a quote unquote good workout in. How long do you think a workout needs to be to count or be effective? Seeing a good range, 20 to 30 minutes. Love that. A couple people said an hour or 45 minutes. How many of you feel like you have up to an extra hour in your day to work out? I see a no. Lots of no's. And full transparency, I'm in the no category as well. So let's start by identifying the time you could work out in your day. Is it 20 minutes that you spend scrolling on social media in the morning or scrolling through emails before you get your workday started? What about 30 minutes that you spend sitting in the car while your child is at soccer practice? Rather than trying to carve time out in your day, identify an opportunity to repurpose your time. Organizational psychologists and authors of the book Leading for Wellness, Katina Sawyer and Patricia Garbrecht, talk about time management and the idea of being a segmenter or an integrator. Knowing how you prefer to divide your time can be helpful when identifying ways to repurpose your time, as I mentioned before. I am a segmenter and I want it all to happen at once. I will set aside 30 minutes at least in my morning for a workout. Full transparency, sometimes it's less than that and sometimes more. It just depends on the workout I want to do, if I hit the snooze button, and how my body's feeling. Integrators are those who can squeeze it in throughout the day. Maybe it's a 5-minute stretch in the morning, 10 minutes of cardio through a walk at lunch, and then maybe you squeeze in a 20-minute circuit in the evening. I'd like to make a point of saying there is not a right or wrong answer here. Everybody is different, and the goal is to figure out what works best for you. The goal is to be successful, and the only way to do that is by setting realistic expectations based on what you know about yourself and your schedule. When we think about time dedicated to working out, I think we set ourselves up for failure before we even start. How many of you have found yourself at times saying, I don't have enough time, so I'm just not going to work out, when you could have done something for 10 minutes? Remember that if you are currently more sedentary than active, anything is better than nothing, regardless of how insignificant it may seem. Reflect on the things we discussed earlier: Tabata, AMRAP, circuit workouts. These are workouts that are intended to be done in shorter periods. Instead of telling yourself, I don't have time, ask yourself, what can I do with the time I do have? I know I've done a Tabata workout that was less than 10 minutes, and I don't know if I've sweat so much in my life. It was so hard, and it was less than 10 minutes. So again, ask yourself, what can I do with the time that I do have? And I know some of the exercises I mentioned above might feel a little bit intimidating or not in your wheelhouse quite yet. Let's talk about walking. Now, I'm sure you've heard that you need to get 10,000 steps per day, and I'm just going to go ahead and throw myself under the bus here and say that I do not get 10,000 steps a day. With sitting at my desk for 8 hours a day and the type of workouts that I do being more strength focused, I really struggle to get my steps in. Does that mean I just throw my hands up and say, well, I guess steps don't matter? No, I did an audit of my current step data and set a goal that was much more attainable. So for me, that goal is 8,000 steps. And when I say that I have to work at it, I really have to work at it. So, how do we incorporate more steps into our day? Take the stairs. Take those stairs every time you must change floors in any building you are in. Also, revisit those stairs and do a flight or two a couple times during your day. Now, does this seem like a quote unquote great workout? Maybe not, but I'll say it again. Any opportunity to offset sedentary time is a better choice. You can always incorporate interval training into walking. Walk more quickly for 20 seconds and then slow back down for 10 seconds, right? A little bit of Tabata in there. You can cycle through that several times. Maybe you have 10 minutes to go on a walk. Can you increase your speed for the duration of that walk? Maybe you identify a landmark that you know you can get to in 5 minutes and gradually work to surpass that landmark with each walk. By increasing your pace and therefore the intensity of your walk, you are making the most out of that time. Now, I know I mentioned squats at least a couple of times in this webinar, so now let's do some. So from your chair, you're going to plant your feet about hip width apart. With even pressure in both of your feet, you're going to focus on transferring your weight into your feet as you engage your leg muscles, right? Your hamstrings on the back, quads on the front, and then your glutes, your seat muscles, and bring yourself up to a standing position. You can utilize your desk or a countertop in front of you for more stability, or for a little bit more of a challenge, you can hold your arms out in front of you. See if you can do about 5 to 10 reps. See how that feels. Another myth to bust would be that you need to have a gym membership or an elaborate home gym to get sufficient exercise in. Throw it in the chat. How many of you currently have a gym membership? I see a variety of answers here. So for those of you that do have gym memberships, how many of you feel like you're using your gym membership as much as you would like to be? I see a good variety, but quite a few not as much as I'd like, or maybe not at all. Um, and the reality of it is you can do a lot at home with or without the equipment, but let's take a look at some body weight exercises. So exercises that you don't need any equipment for. So I always like to say body weight exercise is your no bells and whistles workouts, right? You and yourself. So push-ups, lunges, squats, and there are many other exercises that are a great way to rely on your own body weight and resistance to get a good workout in. I know you might be thinking, okay, Jamie, so a couple of push-ups is really going to benefit me. Well, I challenge you to push yourself if those moves become too easy. You can challenge yourself to increase the number of reps you do. You can add time under tension. So think, okay, if you're doing push-ups, maybe you do a plank hold after a certain number. If you're doing squats, maybe you try to hold a squat in between. You can focus on increased range of motion, right? So with push-ups, can you go deeper into your push-up while maintaining good form? Can you increase the intensity by making a move more explosive? So with squats, you could increase that up to jump squats. These are examples of resistance training that do not require equipment. The other way to do body weight activity would be more cardio focused. So walking, kind of like I mentioned before, with some intervals, running or high intensity intervals, doing things like jumping jacks, running in place, burpees, etc. Utilizing your own body weight is a great way to get a workout in. Again, the lack of equipment does not need to be a barrier. Now, maybe you are someone who really would prefer access to equipment. I challenge you to think about the equipment you gravitate towards in a gym. Now, yes, gyms do have a lot of specialty equipment and expensive gear, but how much of it do you think you'd utilize? Dumbbells and resistance bands are great pieces of equipment that don't take up a lot of space. Is your favorite equipment a cable machine? Try to replicate that same motion at home utilizing a resistance band. Believe it or not, a lot of the moves you rely on the equipment for can be recreated utilizing dumbbells or resistance bands or a combination of them at home. If you don't have the range of dumbbells you feel is necessary to get the workout that you want, increase your reps, increase that time under tension. These are things that you can do to make a move more challenging. So whether you're going to the gym, working out at home, or just going for a walk, remember that something is better than nothing. I hope this webinar has given you some ideas or even motivated you to use your time a little differently. Well, I may not be able to tell you how to make more time in your day, and I promise if I figure it out, I'll let you all know. But I do hope that you feel a little more encouraged that even with limited time, you can still invest in your physical fitness. Remember, the bigger the goals, the more time those goals takes. If you want to complete an Ironman triathlon, it's going to take more than 20 minutes a day. If you just want to be the best version of you, capitalize on the time you do have available and make the most of it. Movement is medicine. Exercise is a significant factor when it comes to longevity. So use your time now to invest in your health, and your future self will thank you. Never stop challenging yourself and exceeding your own expectations. Around here, we say better every day. I challenge you. Can you be better today?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jamie. Before we jump into questions here, I do want to highlight the upcoming webinars next month, August already. I can't believe it. We're going to talk about breath work and all of the great things that can come with just focusing on that breath. And then September, we're going to talk about intuitive eating. So back on that nutrition track. If you do have lifestyle rewards or a points-based system and you do get points for watching the webinars, you may be asked these questions. Most of you will not, but if your company has elected questions, these will be it. I'll give just a second to screenshot. Otherwise, these will be on the PDF. You'll be able to download the slides on the blog post here within the next day or two that will get posted. And that's where we've got this here. You can watch past webinars. A couple of you asked about downloading the slides. You can download the slides at our blog, which is right in the middle there, the healthcheck360.com/blog. So you can watch past webinars, register for upcoming, download the slides. We will have that PDF of the health check workout too on that blog post. So that's where you will find that within the next couple days. We are on social media, so check us out there. And if you do want to chat with a health coach, we are not personal trainers necessarily, so we can't give you a specific workout if you're talking about this type of questions, but we would love to chat about general information, the type of information that Jamie shared today. Give us a call, shoot us an email, definitely set up a time to chat. All right. Oh, someone has to go back to the questions here. I can go back. I know, Jamie, before, if you want to look at some of the questions, I did notice a couple were asking about, modifications and different things like that. And we didn't put modifications, on purpose, basically, because everyone is so different as far as what your ability level is. If you have past injuries that you can't do specific workouts. So for those ones, if you want modifications, especially the alphabet, you can create your own exercises. So think of things that you can do, think of things that you like to do that get your heart rate up, that work those different muscles, and create your own. That's kind of the goal with that. If you do need modifications, lots of stuff online. You can search, modifications for a squat, modifications for a push-up, all of those different things you can research on. And then chat with doctor, physical therapist. If you do have specific things that you know that you may not do, definitely, talk to a professional. But again, we didn't put those on purpose so that you could kind of get active in the process of creating your own workout as well. Anything to add to that, Jamie?
No, not necessarily. I think you answered it how I would have. I always remind people to like break down a move. And so for example, like with push-ups, those are not an easy move to conquer. So